G'day all, welcome back to the G-Man Show. Thanks for joining me again on the internet. We have a news report here. Apparently, inflation is under control and there are now being heavy calls to cut the cash rate.
Hope a rate cut could be on the cards for Aussie mortgage holders this morning as inflation falls again. Live now to Today Federal Politics reporter Liz Daniels in Canberra. Liz, the Treasurer, trying not to get too excited.
He is, Jane. The last RBA meeting was a shock. The next one looks like a lock. The latest inflation data heading in the right direction. The so-called trimmed mean, that's the underlying rate of inflation, came in at 2.7% in the June quarter. That is down from 2.9% in March. It means that rapid price growth of inflation we've seen for years now is slowing to where the Reserve Bank wants it to be, between the target range of 2 and 3%. And economists are widely predicting that that will mean it is enough to trigger a rate cut when the Reserve Bank meets in 2 weeks' time. 2 years would be a long time to wait for mortgage holders. Though, yes, Treasurer Jim Chalmers has his reservations, Jane. The Reserve Bank did.
All right, so let's talk about this. So for starters, inflation isn't going down. Once the base price is increased, it never goes down. That's the new norm. It's the rate of inflation is slowing, apparently. Now, I don't know if you guys and girls at home who go to the supermarket are experiencing a slowing and stabilisation of prices, because I'm certainly still seeing things being jacked up by quite a bit, nickel and dimed, as much as possible before this whole boom for them may come to an end. They can't rely on high inflation rates to get away with saying, well, we need to put our costs up. I reckon they're just getting it in. I've noticed some other things spiking quite recently. Let's talk about electricity. So electricity prices, those of you who have not checked or received any correspondence, I would say you should be checking your bills. A lot of distributors have put up electricity by quite a large margin, in some cases even 30% I've seen, and they've sort of pushed that through. So check it and move. Don't pay the lazy tax. I want to talk about the last few years. Now, there are going to be people on both sides of the fence here. As always, everybody is self-interested. There's nothing wrong with that. It is human nature. Okay, so people who have mortgages and they have may have a large mortgage that is getting absolutely, that is really draining their money, right? Just due to the amount of interest you got to pay on top of the principal repayment every single month. A lot of those people are going to be screaming for a rate cut. I don't know why he wouldn't. Who wants to pay high interest? He'll have business owners, small to medium business owners who rely on working capital financed by the banks. They will be jumping up and down for joy as well. And hopefully we do get a rate cut. I'm going to give you my opinion on why. Because I don't care what all these, you get Jim Chalmers who'll be wheeled out in a second to say he's won the day and all that sort of thing. Look around you. Read the news. How many job cuts are happening at the moment? Redundancies in the hundreds and thousands. You hear about people, maybe in your friendship network. You hear about maybe friends and family, people getting laid off. It isn't easy to get another job. Okay, there is a lot of competition for people out there to get the same job or get back into that same sort of line of work. Keeping people out of work for long periods of time. Why is that? Well, I'm not going to just blame immigration, but I'm going to blame the RBA here. This is their intent, really, which is to spike unemployment, to reduce discretionary spending, to then bring down inflation. So that's mission accomplished. Well done, guys. Let's get back to normal, hey? A lot of people suffering. That's why we need these rate cuts. Plain and simple. Now, you'll get other people on the other side who will say, and I can understand this as well. Well, they're like, well, I wasn't dumb enough to go and get a big mortgage, and I saw the writing on the wall. You hear people they'll say those sort of things all the time. Looking in the revision mirror always gives you 2020 intelligence. Oh, well, I knew this was going to happen. The average was way higher than this, and blah, 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 blah. Fair point. But zero compassion for people who are paying just to have a roof over their house for their family. They want rates to go up because then they don't have any debt and they have their money in high interest savings account. In my opinion, there's no such thing as a high interest savings account, but that's what they say. Oh, it's in a high interest savings account. We don't know why it's not a high interest savings account. Even if the interest rate you're getting is over the rate of inflation, and always take these inflation figures with a grain of salt, you're paying tax on that gain. So any gain you've gotten just gets eroded away. And you can just give it to the man. I know I'm ranting today. And so people want their cash. They might have retirees with the huge cash balances in the bank. I don't know why. I guess people put cash in the bank because it's less risky, and understand it at elderly age. You don't want to put it in the market and all that sort of thing. I get that. So they want the rates to go up and up and up, right? So everyone's self-interested. They're going to be people who are going to want rate cuts. You're going to want to have people who want to see it spike. They want to see the housing market tank. They want to see carnage. They want to be able to get their house at a 75% discount. We all know people who have been saying things like this. I know guys who have been saying that for 20 years. Maybe one day they'll be right. But I've heard guys saying, no, I'm waiting for the crash, G-Man, and then I've got a lot of dry powder, and I'm going to jump into the market then when, there's blood in the streets. Guess what? Same guy has still yet to buy a house. And from 20 years, the appreciation is astronomical. Get left behind. But anyway, that's another topic.
Refused to move at its last meeting. He is coming up live on Today.
Liz, thank you.
Not one, not two, but three RBA rate cuts now seem increasingly likely this year after core inflation fell to its lowest levels since the pandemic.
So what does it all mean for mortgage holders? We are joined now by Domain's Chief of Research and Economics, Dr. Nicola Powell.
I said 2.7, now it's 2.1. That's why I don't trust these numbers, because there's all these different methods of calculating them. There are different items that get captured in the basket of goods in which they capture and calculate inflation on. So to me, it's just hocus pocus. In my honest opinion, I can't see how it's 2.1% at the moment. But that's just my anecdotal experience, seeing price rises, getting bill shock, all that sort of stuff. All right, now we got economists on who just make stuff up, and then the goalposts change literally every day. So people go, I know this economist, and they said this and that. It's just guessing game, guys. It's punting. You may as well go down to the greyhounds. You're going to have the same result as what these economists do. It changes every day. So now they're like, we might not get that many more. Now it's 3 more this year. When Trump came on and I had the shock when he was carrying on about tariffs, it's going to be 100% basis point drop before the end of the year. Who knows? Just throw a dart on a dartboard, really.
In Canberra. Good morning to you, Nicola. So what impact will these latest figures have?
I think with inflation, it really did show that inflation is under control, and I think the RBA are going to have to move in their next board meeting. We are expecting the cash rate to be reduced in August, and we're probably going to see another one in November, and maybe even a couple early next year. But I think for anybody out there with a mortgage, check refinancing opportunities, because lenders are really competing aggressively for refinancing. Reviewing the rates and switching to a lower one could ease that repayment. And I think for those looking at fixing, be very selective, because we are expecting more rate cuts this year. So you don't want to fix in your mortgage rate when it is still high, when we are expecting more rate reductions to come through.
All right.
That's some pretty good advice, I would say. People want to go on to fix. People who may have anxiety around the mortgage, they want to know what they're paying every month. When you see a lot of these banks dropping fixed rates by quite a significant amount, and it's being widely advertised on the news and all that sort of stuff. There's a reason why they're doing this, because they are expecting the variable rate to come down more so than those fixed rates that they're trying to entice people in. So they're trying to hedge and get people on what will be higher interest rates in the future. They're trying to sucker them in with a sweet deal right now comparative to where the variable rate is. But if they're saying they're going to be 2 more this year and 2 more early next year, no one knows. No, anything can happen. But let's just say that happens. Generally, that's about 100 basis points. If they go in 0.25 increments, that's a significant amount of savings on a variable mortgage. And if you got you went and rushed in because NAB or Commonwealth Bank dropped their fixed rate for 3 years by 25 basis points, well, the bank wins. So I'd be very careful about fixing right now. And you're going to get someone in the comments I know go, I fixed 4 or 5 years ago for 1.89%. Because I knew what was going to happen. All right. Guys, halfway. If you're enjoying the content, my rants, my views on these issues, consider subscribing to the channel. Also, like and comment, because unfortunately YouTube has now changed the game as to where the amount I get pushed and the potential ad revenue that I get is all based on the engagement. So if you could do that, it'll be much appreciated. Let's continue.
Well, inflation has dropped to its lowest level since the height of the pandemic. All eyes now on the RBA as homeowners eagerly await an interest rate cut that surely this time is coming. For more, Treasurer Jim Chalmers joins us live in Canberra. Good morning to you, Treasurer.
Okay, let me guess. And I haven't watched this far into the broadcast. I like to do a lot of these sort of commentaries live so you guys can get my honest, unscripted thoughts. Jimmy C is going to say that he's done it. It's Labor. The Labor government has got it all under control, guys. The Labor government, number one, hasn't done anything. The RBA has acted independently and put the screws to an extreme level on the economy. So I bet my bottom dollar he's going to say something like that. And then he's probably going to say something along the lines of Labor in partnership or something with the Australian people. He's going to say, we've done it, guys. We've done it.
Morning,
well,
Sarah.
Weren't you chipper yesterday? Are you going to take all the credit for this after blaming everything else for the high inflation to begin with?
Well, first of all, I'm always chipper. And secondly, I went out of my way yesterday to say that this is progress that Australians have made together. And it's good progress. It's a very welcome development that we saw inflation come down really right across the board in those numbers which were released yesterday. It was a powerful demonstration of the progress that Australians have made. 3 years ago, inflation was 3 times higher and rising. We've been able to get that inflation down, kept unemployment low, got real wages growing again, and all of those are good things.
It has taken longer here in Australia.
Once again, I'm very sceptical about the unemployment rate. What are they saying at the moment? 4 point something. Now, I'd love to know how they truly calculate that. Is the employment rate, does that include people who work 1 hour a week and on casual and part-time? To me, it should be full employment, full stable employment, not working 1 hour a week, like market and employment participation. I don't trust any of the numbers. Of course, they're not going to say, oh, yeah, we're in a recession. It's a complete basket case. We're importing in hundreds of thousands of people per year to prop up our GDP. And that's the only thing stopping us from spiraling down into the negative. If we can say it's all under control at the moment, that's not what I'm saying on the street. And I'm not trying to be a doomer. I'm not even seeing any green shoots. I think the employment market's going to get worse for a while. As we said, it's in a cycle, and all these cycles react to macroeconomic conditions. So as I was saying, all these businesses, they operate using, for the most part, money financed from banks. And so those interest rates, they stifle business activity. They result in businesses retracting or contracting, so to speak. You have higher taxes. coming through. So how are we going to see an expanding jobs market at the moment? And I hope I'm wrong. I would love to see 4 rate cuts come through and people feeling excited and optimistic about the future again. But the last 3 or so years, even more than that, it has appeared that there's been crisis after crisis, headwind after headwind. When are people going to feel like there is some actual point to breaking your back and you may get ahead? The old Aussie battler trying to get ahead? Because the working class and the middle classes, the standard of living has been very much eroded. Anyway, let's see what Jimmy's got to say.
Australia than it has in other parts of the world, though you are aware of that. But let's look at grocery prices. I mean, they are still firmly on the rise. Eggs, meat, fresh produce, all more expensive than they were this time last year. How are you going to make those costs come down?
Well, there's some important points there. First of all, Sarah, on your point about the international environment, inflation is rising in the US, the UK, Canada and New Zealand, and it's falling in Australia. Secondly, food inflation slowed yesterday in those numbers yesterday. I understand that people are still under pressure when they're at the supermarket.
Well, they're still up 19% for eggs, 12% for lambs, 9% for coffee.
Well, first of all, eggs is a different case because we know that there's been the chicken cull and everyone...
Oh, come on, Jimmy boy.
Been in a supermarket knows that that's played out in the price of eggs. That's the first point.
4.6% for veggies.
Food inflation is slowing. It was 6.6 the quarter before, and so still too high, still more work to do, but it's coming down. So that's an important point as well. And so inflation is coming down. That's a good thing. But we know the job's not finished. It's not mission accomplished. People are still under pressure. We've still got global economic uncertainty. The growth is slow in our economy. That's why the cost of living help's so important. And it's why it's so important that we do what we can to continue to make our economy stronger, more resilient, more productive as well.
All right, well, let's hope to...
Well, we sold off our whole economy, basically. So all of our... We are basically... we are dependent. And whatever's happening all around the world strongly affects what's happening here in Australia. So whatever conflict is happening, whether or not you believe it or not, is a cause of inflation. We are exposed to that. Whatever the US does, we are exposed to that. Because we don't really produce too much anymore. We don't own too much anymore. All our supply chains, for the most part, are global. All of our utilities are run by offshore operators. So they have impacts overseas and they have costs that go up. They're going to push it all through to you. There's no insulation from the world. And that's what happens when you sell everything off.
Your point about the inflation in other parts of the world going back up, that ours doesn't bounce back up as well. Let's move on now. And Trump's announced new baseline tariffs of up to 20% for countries set to strike a deal, which kind of includes us, Treasurer. Are you still going to assume the 10% at our border, or do you have any further clarity that it is going to stay that way?
Look, our understanding and our working assumption is that we get the 10%, but obviously when it comes to...
So you don't have any confirmation, like no one's picked up the phone and actually spoken to Trump or his people about whether or not that's the case?
We're engaging with the Americans all the time, and it's not unusual. Really, a couple of times a week there is an announcement about tariffs. There was another one about India overnight, for example. And so we don't pretend that anything in this environment is necessarily set in stone, but our understanding, our expectation, our working assumption is that we get the 10%. From our point of view, the 10% is too high. We think it should be zero because these tariffs are an act of economic self-harm. We saw in the US, as I said before, inflation's going up. Earlier in the year, they had slower growth, interest rates on hold in the US overnight. They haven't cut rates, I think, for 12 months or so, whereas in Australia, interest rates are coming down. So we think these tariffs are bad for the American economy, bad for the global economy, not good for us either. And so we'll continue to engage with the Americans on it.
So come tomorrow, still 10%.
You got no weight. They're trying to make out like you got some bargaining power with the US. We are a little island in the middle of the ocean. We're just a small population. We are a little insect That's all it is in the eyes of the US and other larger economies. So to say we have any sort of bargaining power, we're just going to have to take what we can get from the old DT.
As far as you're concerned, you don't have confirmation either way?
As far as I'm aware.
Okay. Well, Trump, of course, still hasn't appointed an ambassador to Australia. Look, it did take him 2 years last time, so he's got form on this. But I guess on top of the tariffs, on top of not meeting with our PM, beef, AUKUS, it doesn't kind of seem like we're a priority for the US at the moment.
We're not.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I mean, the Prime Minister's had 3 conversations with President Trump. Where I've engaged with my counterpart, Penny Wong has, Don Farrell has. There's a lot of engagement going on with the Americans.
Nothing's changed, I suppose.
Well, we've got the lowest tariff rate of any of the countries. We've got the baseline.
She's good. She's just giving him these little left, right, good night little quips. Good on her. Getting stuck into him, Jimmy. So he's very slippery. He's a good politician, that's for sure. He doesn't answer any questions directly. He talks about something else, loosely related. He gets asked a direct question, goes around in circles, and confuses just about everybody who's talking to him, and so he gets off the hook. He can't get. He doesn't really tell you anything.
Well, we've got it. Yeah, the Americans run a trade surplus with us. That's one of the ways that the economic relationship is one that benefits the US and benefits Australia. We've made that point clear as well. It's a really important relationship. We engage in that light.
Does it worry you we don't have an ambassador appointed yet, or you're not fussed?
Well, as you said, it's not that unusual for countries to take a little while to appoint ambassadors. It hasn't prevented us from working closely with the Americans on issues of mutual interest, including in the economy.
All right, AUKUS, the US review will now extend for another few months. Our $1.6 billion gathering dust, it would seem. Do we have sort of any clarity on when they might start building these subs? Any certainty that it's actually going ahead?
Well, obviously, just like when it comes to trade, we continue to engage.
Why do we need submarines? We're building all these billions of dollars on submarines and all this sort of thing. At the end of the day, if someone wants to attack Australia, we've got no chance. Any of China or India, I'm just making up numbers here, but huge armies. What are we going to do about it? Our defence force is minuscule. And if they want to really just cause some damage, they just press one button. Yeah, let's go and spend billions of dollars on submarines. How about we just spend that taxpayers' money? How about we spend that taxpayers' money on things that are going to help the Australian people? And people can say, yeah, well, the defence does help you when the barbarian's knocking at the door. As I said, just one button, just drop a artillery strike on us and we're done. So that's my view on it. I think defence spend is what they want to play around and have war games in submarines. How about housing? How about the things that really matter for Australian people? How about maybe using that money for rebates and stuff like that for people who are really struggling and are on the breadline with everything increasing? No, let's just get some submarines. Awesome. Let's keep funding the military-industrial complex. Yeah, awesome.
The Americans on AUKUS, it's a really important defence deal that involves the 3 countries. And it's not unusual for new administrations or new governments to review it. I think the UK did that as well when the Labor government came in.
There seems to be a lot of uncertainty, Treasurer, when it comes to the US. We don't quite have any confirmation on kind of anything.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I think that might be overdoing it. But more broadly, there's a lot of uncertainty in the global economy. We're certainly seeing that play out. Tariffs are part of that. National security considerations are part of that as well. I agree. At least in that regard. But it's not unusual for new administrations to do these kinds of reviews. It's not unusual for us to continue to engage, whether it's on defence, whether it's on the economy, and that's what we're doing.
All right. Treasurer, thanks so much.
Good on you, Jimmy. All right, guys, let me know your thoughts. Are we out of it? Is it the good times are coming? Inflation is beat. The Labor government did it, guys. The Labor government did it. Well done. Take the credit. All right. See you all in the next video. Once again, like, comment, and all that sort of stuff. It really does help the channel grow. We've had a bit of growth recently. The last month's been very good, so let's keep that going. Thank you all.